So in our previous lessons, we've been dealing with some text, and we've been using the 3D tracker to integrate that text into our scene. But now we're going to be integrating an animation, and this animation will consist of a graphic and some text, and it'll be some information about this deer that we have. And when we take a look at this footage, we actually are able to notice that the deer is kind of walking through this little grassy area. But if we were to get a RAM preview of this deer, then you can see that actually it's been shot at high speed, and so we have this kind of slow-mo effect. And what we'll do is we'll use this and we'll time remap it so that we have the deer moving at a regular pace, and then it'll slow down for a little bit, and then it'll that'll give us time to have our graphic come in and tell us some facts about this deer, and then we'll go ahead and send that back to a regular speed. And we can pull up our time remapping by just grabbing our footage, so clicking on it in our layers panel, and right click, and we have this time drop down. And when we click or hover over this, then we have enable time remapping. And so that will drop in two keyframes, one at the beginning, one at the end of our footage. And what these keyframes are, they are representing the beginning and the end of everything that's moving, or so the time that's happening. So if I just took the end of that keyframe and I took my indicator, and once I cross over the end, then it's going to stop. So how I can use this is I can look at how much time I have. So if I come over here and hover over that last keyframe, it tells me that there is 23.19 seconds, so about 23.5 seconds of footage. And I can kind of break that down and think about, how I want this to show up. So if I want this clip to really be about 10 seconds, so I can just hit page down or page up until I can see that I'm at the 10-second mark. I'm going to take that last keyframe and just bring it down to the end. I'm going to hit N on the keyboard, and that is just going to make my work area here just come to the end. And I'm also going to trim to that work area. So now I'm only dealing with 10 seconds, and that footage has been kind of shrunk down to 10 seconds. And so if I were to get a RAM preview of that, then actually it would look maybe just a little bit faster, still walking kind of slow. But what we're going to do is we're going to add a couple more keyframes in here. So now that I have 10 seconds, then I can kind of break that down even more. So I know that I want about 4 seconds to give me time to animate the graphic coming in. So let's go ahead and break this down. So what is 10 minus 4? We are left with 6. So I can take 3 seconds at the beginning, 3 seconds at the end, and that'll be the regular time. And if I have 23 seconds overall, let's go ahead and break that down to, so let's come to 3 seconds. And you're going to use page down until I'm right at that 3-second mark. And I'm going to come over and grab this value. So what I want is for this 7.02, I want that to actually say 10. So I can just drag that right to about 10 seconds. So that's half. So I'm going to use I'm going to use 10 seconds, 10 seconds, and then 3 seconds in the middle. So I'm at 10. Then I'm going to come here, and what is 4 plus 3 is 7. So let's go ahead and bring that right at 7. And then I'm going to go ahead and drag this. And so that will be 10 plus 3 seconds would be 23 seconds. Actually, 13 seconds. And I'll give it just a little bit of change here. So now I have, if I get a RAM preview of that, then I have some regular speed, and then I have the deer slowing down, and then it'll speed back up again. And if I need to adjust this even more, so now I have this great starting point. So if I wanted to just drag this out a little more, then I can take those middle points and I can make it just a little bit longer. So maybe I wanted that to be almost 5 seconds in the middle. And just as long as I keep the ends pretty close, close enough. It doesn't necessarily have to be exact, because it's kind of hard to tell once we're just messing with seconds here how much that we've adjusted the footage. But you can definitely see a big difference and the slow down compared to the regular walk. So we have this right about perfect, I think. So now I have this first keyframe at 2 seconds and 11 frames, and the second keyframe right at about 7 seconds and 20 frames. So that'll give us a great amount of time to pull in our footage. So now that we have our footage all set, then maybe we want to go ahead and track it. So let me show you something that you'll be dealing with if you're doing time remapping. So remember, if we right click, that we can track a camera, and we can also come over to our effects and presets and 3D track. So when I try to track a camera, then I get this error, and it tells me that After Effects doesn't work with time remapping. So what I'm going to have to do is figure out a way to get around this. So let's go ahead and delete that filter or that effect. You can just come over to your effect controls and just delete it. And let's go ahead and add some markers to our timeline. So make sure that we are off of the footage, because we want those markers to appear in the timeline, not on the footage. And we'll hit Shift so that we have the indicator locking into place. And just go ahead and hit the asterisk on your numeric keypad, and that will place that marker there. And if you wanted to name that, you could also do that. You could just double click on that marker, and we could call it Start. And then we're going to come down to the other keyframe, or the first, second, third keyframe, and we're going to hit the asterisk again. And we can double click on that and name that End. And then hit OK. So now we have a start and an end. And the reason why I added these markers is because when we pre-compose this, which is what we're going to do to get around this problem of not being able to track, then we want to be able to see. And so these keyframes are going to go inside the pre-comp. So when I right click and pre-compose, I'm going to move all my attributes into the new composition. And we can just call this our time remapped. And hit OK. So you can see now our keyframes are gone, and I can track this if I want to now, and I won't get those errors. So now that we have our footage time remapped and we have it pre-composed, then in our next lesson we'll be working on the graphic that will come in and give us some information about our deer.